Hey, everybody, we're back, and it's time now for our first guest, a true stand-up comedy pioneer. This guy has been in comedy game for over 50 years. He's done some remarkable and amazing things in stand-up. His new book right now is called Still Standing, My Journey from the Streets and Saloons to the Stage and Sinatra. It's a great book. Everyone should get it. It's available on Amazon.com. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, the legend himself, Mr. Tom Dreesen. Tom, how are you? I'm
fine. I always think when somebody calls you a legend that it just means you've outlived all your critics. All your critics have died.
Now you've been in stand-up before stand-up comedy clubs, and you've kind of revolutionized a lot of stand-up as the way we know it today, including you broke race barriers, you stood up for comedians through the years. You've definitely been on the forefront of stand-up comedy, and there's a lot to be commended for that, and you're definitely a trailblazer.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, I'm not really, I mean, stand-up comedy's been around long before me, from all the way back to the court jester, but when I started out, what I might be an anomaly, there's a few of us left, that when we started out, there were no comedy clubs in America. In 1969, in regards to the race thing you talked about, I started out in show business with a comedy team. Tim Reed and I were America's first black and white comedy team. History shows we were the last.
Hey, baby. Oh, look here, Leroy. Do the bus stop here. What do you think this is, Amos and Andy?
In 1969 and 1975, we toured the nation. Before there were comedy clubs, we worked what they call the Chitlin circuit, all black-owned, black-operated nightclubs, an affectionate term given to those clubs. You know, the 20 Grand in Detroit, the High Chaparral in Chicago, the Sugar Shack in Boston, the Club Harlem in Atlantic City before they had gambling. So this was an actual tour, and then also we worked all white nightclubs. So Tim and I eventually worked the Playboy circuit.
Right.
But it was at a time not unlike today, where there was race riots all over the United States. Students were protesting the Vietnam War. I had just gotten out of the service. Tim just got out of college. So we were, trying to confront the racial divide with humor. We went anywhere there was racial tension. That's where we went. We went to colleges and high schools. We did 11 prisons in 1 year.
Wow.
So that was that part there.
That you were combating this in the '69 during the civil rights era. Like you said, you and Tim and Tom were out there doing it, trying to kind of connect, and you were successful at it.
Now I'm coming up. Check me out now. Remember, we brothers. We're brothers. In the ghetto. In the ghetto. All right. Hey, what's happening, Jive? My main man. Say, look here, baby, this way I catch Big Mac. I got to ease uptown, get me some new rags, a couple fronts, pair of gators, go check them traps, do a little night crawling through the hood.
That's out of sight, man. I didn't know you spoke a foreign language.
But here we are all these years later, and it's still an issue. Does that surprise you? Did you think if I would have talked to you back in 1969, what you would have thought about 2020, would you think we'd still be having the same problems?
Well, we're not really having the same exact problem. The thing that I remember, Tim Reed and I, when we decided we wanted to become a comedy team, the only person I knew in show business was in my neighborhood, was a black singing group called the Dells. They had like 9 or 10 gold records. Oh, What a Night, Stay in My Corner, and the lead singer, Marvin, I grew up across the street from him. I had 8 brothers and sisters. I grew up very poor, and that's another story. But the only person I knew in show business was Marvin, and I went to Marvin with Tim, and we went to his home, and we told him we wanted to become a comedy team. Do you have any advice? And he gave us some advice. But before we left, he said, I got to tell you guys something. They're going to try to divide you. They are going to come and try to divide you. There's a games people play in this country called, divide and conquer. Now, right. Tim and I said, what are you talking about? He said, they're going to come to you, Tom, and they're going to say, you don't need that black guy. You can do it on your own. And that black guy's going to come to you and say, you don't need that white boy. You can do it on your own. So he said, be careful of that. Divide and conquer. That's what's happening in America today. I don't want to get political here, but the George Floyd thing was a travesty. It was an absolute travesty. And there wasn't anybody in this country who didn't believe it was a travesty. Right. They knew that guy should go to jail for the rest of his life, or in my opinion, the electric chair for what he did. No one even doubted that. And the nation was united. And people who don't want us united couldn't handle that. So the peaceful protest started, and guess what? Rioting, burning, and looting. And in 2 days, we weren't united anymore. Mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. Exactly. Anytime that they can divide us, they're going to find a way to divide us. And so that's my story. That keep your eye out for that. I'm all for peaceful protesting. I'm an ex-GI. That's what you went in the service for.
Right.
I'm all for that. You have absolute right. I may not even agree with your protest, but I agree you have that right. You don't have a right to burn, riot, loot, and destroy property in this country. It's people who worked hard all their lives. Black folks and white folks worked hard to build those businesses, and then you burn them down? I mean, that's BS. Watch out for that. Watch out for that. There's a difference between the era Tim Reed and I were in, and to what is happening now. Your peaceful protests are being hijacked is all I'm saying.
Exactly. And I agree with you. And I do think that there is, for whatever reason, forces that always want to divide us. And this cancel culture that we're in now is unlike anything I've ever seen. I don't know if it was always like this, but I feel like it or maybe to some degree it was, but I feel like now it's really heightened, where you have to be careful everything you say or tweet or write about. And this is kind of harmful for stand-up comedy. And do you think stand-up comedy could be endangered, so to speak? I mean, especially with the COVID, with not a lot of guys getting to the clubs in the first place, but also now with the cancel culture and having to be careful everything we say.
By the way, it's going to be a danger if you let it. And Lenny Bruce didn't let it. They put him in jail, but he didn't let it. Right. I dare, anytime somebody comes to me with politically correct bullshit, I tell them, I get angry when I even speak about it.
Right.
Who are you? Who are you? We keep apologizing to you, and we don't know who you are. We know who the Republicans are. We know who the Democrats are. We know who the Independents are. We know who the Kiwanis, the Moose, the Elks are. We know who the Ku Klux Klan is, but we don't know who you are, and we keep apologizing to you. It's BS. The First Amendment says we have a right to say what we want to say. By the way, that's what men and women died for in the military. So we have a right to say whatever we want to say. Now, you don't have to listen to us. You can walk out on us. You don't have to pay to see us. You can turn us off. But you can't tell us that we can't say what we want. I say to all of them, when you come around with all that bullshit, go tell Dave Chappelle that. I want to be there when you tell Dave Chappelle that. I want to be there. He's my hero. He'll tell you what you can do and stick it where the sun doesn't shine. And that's what will keep stand-up comedy alive. That kind of courage, that it's stupid young people coming out of these colleges being told that BS, not even understanding what the Constitution of the United States is all about and what the First Amendment is all about and how men and women died. So you have that right,
And like you said, with the temperature of the world right now, we need comedy more than ever. And if they keep stifling us or trying to, we can't give them that power to shut us down, to shut the comedy down, because, I've heard you say it in other interviews, laughter is the best medicine. It's, we're the physicians of the soul. So we need it now more than ever. And we can't have these people who want to divide us, stifle us. Yeah. So it's important to stay strong and keep comedy relevant.
We're on a video. Those who are listening to audio won't understand, but I'm showing you on the video. You say to a comedian, I want you to go out there, Don. Go out there, and this is you here. And Don, I want you to show us your great comedy. Oh, by the way, Don, don't say this, and don't say that, and don't say this, and don't say. You see what I just did? I put you in a box. And once I put you in that box, you are no longer a stand-up comedian. You're following the people. It sounds like a communist nation. We'll tell you what to say. We'll tell you what to think.
That's what's scary.
Yeah, but it's scary if you allow it to happen.
Yeah, because even Carlin said, that for the comedian, their job is to find the line and then cross it deliberately. But now, like you said, they're trying to shove us back and put us in this box, and it's scary. I think there's more guys like you, more guys like Dave Chappelle out in the world than people realize, but it is still scary knowing that they're trying to put us in a box.
I'll tell you something interesting. Dave Chappelle, a while back, did on one of his specials, he blasted a young black woman conservative named Candace Owens, and he said some really foul things about parts of her body that he thought smelled or something like that.
I seen Candace Owens try to convince white America, don't worry about it. He's a criminal anyway. I don't give a fuck what this nigga did. I don't care what this nigga did. I don't care if he personally kicked Candace Owens in her stinky pussy. I don't know if it stinks, but I imagine it does.
Now, when they came to her and told her, you know, Dave said, she said, I think he's a funny, funny man, and I'm a fan of his. And does that offend me? Yeah, but he has the right to say whatever he wants to say. She defended the rotten things he said about her. You know, and I respect both of them. Dave for saying whatever he wants to say, you know, and her for saying, hey, I'm sorry, the First Amendment gives him that privilege.
Exactly, and that's what we need more of, you know. And it is kind of crazy, this cancel culture that we're in now, and I don't think the world has ever seen anything quite like this. You know, nowadays too, with the social media being so big as it is, that you could really get caught up, and I think anybody, if you trace back through their roots, you'll find something if you're looking that you know to get that person. And now, you know.
Where's the office for the cancel culture? Who's the president of the cancel culture?
Exactly.
Who can we talk to? Can we fight back when you make these bullshit remarks to comedians about what they can say? Can we go to your convention center, the cancel culture? Can we speak? Can we rebut your remarks? That it's all BS, and stand-up comedians should get behind that it's BS. You know?
Exactly. I think that's.
By the way, and I'd say let's build a statue to Dave Chappelle, but then of course they'd probably tear that statue down, wouldn't they?
They would find a reason and they would tear it down. But now that was awesome, by the way, and I'm with you through and through. And I do think comedians, I think the best way to combat it is for comedians just to keep doing their comedy and to not apologize ever for what they do, whether it's jokes that we like or jokes that we don't like. Like you said with the Chappelle, Candace Owens situation, you're allowed to say what you want, and you shouldn't have to be destroyed, your life destroyed over things that you say. You know, especially if it's in a comedy context or social, where you're kind of doing social commentary in a funny tilt, you know.
Yeah, let me give you something to tell all the comedians out there, or anybody who's out there listening. When I toured with Sammy Davis Jr. for 3 years, he had a sign hanging in his dressing room that he couldn't pay heed to, but I loved it. It said, I don't know the meaning of success, but I do know the meaning of failure. It's when I try to make everybody love me.
Nice.
You can't do it, pal. I don't care if you're a truck driver, a bricklayer, or a bartender. You're not going to make everybody love you. Just be, you know. By the way, I can tell you this, Don, and you've been in the business for a long time. If there's 300 people in the room and you crush that night, you got a standing ovation. I guarantee you 250 of those people stood because they really believe you deserve a standing ovation. 30 of them stood because everybody else was standing. 20 of them stood because they wanted to get the hell out of there.
That's awesome. True indeed, my friend.
My ex-wife, God rest her soul, she's not dead, I just wish God would rest her soul. What the hell was her name again? Oh yeah, Plaintiff.
Tom, you're still out there performing. You're still doing stand-up. You go to the Laugh Factory. That's your home club.
Well, when I'm off the road, you know, I do a lot of corporate dates now, and I do a one-man show called, sometimes I call it The Man Who Made Sinatra Laugh, but it's a 90-minute show of stand-up comedy. But when I come off the road, I'll go to the Laugh Factory in Hollywood and try out some new material. And I love it because in the audience are young Black, young White, young Latino, young Asian, and I want to stay in touch with that audience, you know.
Yeah.
And it's fun to have, you know, and they usually have great crowds. I don't know whether we're ever going to do this again, Don, you know.
I know, it's crazy times. When you go up in front of these younger crowds, is it a challenge for you, or is it easy for you to relate to these kids, or is it something you got to work at? Like, do you have to go on TikTok or something, or how do you do it? How do you?
I don't do it. I just, you know, that's the biggest misnomer of all. I remember people used to say, you know, like you'd be out here in Hollywood and there'd be some dumb talent head of talent at Paramount or something would be saying, you know, we got a 24-year audience. We need a 24-year-old comedian. That's such bullshit. I used to watch Rodney Dangerfield, 80 years old, get up at the Laugh Factory and just crush that crowd. And they were all young college kids and stuff.
I tell you, folks, with me, nothing comes easy. You know, I can't lose any weight. I tried jogging. I keep running into restaurants.
I mean, it's such stupidity, you know. Funny is funny. There's only one rule in comedy: be funny. That's the only rule. Be funny.
Yes, sir.
It's such bullshit to think that any age. You know, I did an album in front of an all-black audience years ago called "That White Boy Is Crazy." I'm the only white comedian to ever do an album in front of an all-black audience. And when people said to me, "Oh, listen, you know, you're a little worried, a little concerned," I said, "What color is laughter? What's the color of laughter? You know, it's stupid. It's just plain stupidity, you know." So no, I don't change my material. I don't do anything. I just walk up and on me. I tell them what I think, what I feel, what I, you know.
I don't do blow. A friend of mine once said to me, wanted me to snort some cocaine. I'm not making this up. It's a true story. He said to me, "Tom, you should snort cocaine." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because when you snort cocaine, whatever you are, it expands that 100 times." Forgive me, but what if you're an asshole?
This is awesome. It's very surreal for me to talk to you because I've been a fan of you for so long and always admired what you do. You're a true class act.
Hi, this is Tom Dreesen. You know, each year Tom and celebrity friends run 26 miles to raise money for multiple sclerosis.
This year, lots of great people will be joining me, like Frankie Avalon, Smokey Robinson, Robert Conrad, Boom Boom Mancini, Connie Stevens.
So join Tom in Chicago Southwest suburbs on Sunday, July 1 and run for MS.
Sally Struzzles will be there, Tony Danza, Betty Thomas, Johnny Yoon, Frankie Valli, they'll all be there. We really need your help because we're going to keep on running until there is no multiple sclerosis any longer. Frank, are you going to run?
You kidding? I can hardly run this thing.
Your book, Still Standing, My Journey from Streets and Saloons to the Stage in Sinatra, really kind of tells the story of how you came to be from this kid from Chicago, from this not so great neighborhood, all the way to some of the greatest theaters of the world with some of the biggest named acts of the time, including the legend of legends, Frank Sinatra, that you spent 13 years with.
Thank you very much. Chairman of the board, Francis Alvin Sinatra, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, you know, the book is basically, if you want to summarize it, if I close my eyes right now, Don, and I'm not making this up, I see a little boy with a shoe shine box trudging through the snow on his way to all the taverns in the neighborhood where he's shining shoes so he can make money to bring money home to help feed his brothers and sisters. In those bars, when he was on his hands and knees, Frank Sinatra was on all the jukeboxes. And that's the first time he heard Frank Sinatra. And then fast forward, he's carrying Frank Sinatra's coffin out of a church in Beverly Hills, California. So it's a journey from that little boy that I was, you know, on the south side of Chicago to, you know, through all the hardships that we've gone through. Again, that's the title of the book, Still Standing. I've been knocked down a lot in my life, and you read the book. I was knocked down physically too, not only literally and mentally. I was knocked down physically, but I kept getting back up, and I kept getting back up. And I've been a stand-up comedian for 50 years, so that's a double entendre. But that's basically what the book is all about, is that journey. And it's triumphant because you get knocked down, but you keep coming back. There isn't a comedian out there now listening to this, that you and I talking, that doesn't know what we're talking about. You know, going through these hardships and the rejections, constant rejections, but keep believing in yourself, you know. And whenever I hear that song, One Moment in Time, it almost brings me to tears when I hear it, because that girl is singing her guts out. If I could just have that one moment in time, that's what our struggle is all about. You know, that just that one moment where I would be verified that I am a truck driver, a singer, a comedian, whatever it is that you really wanted to achieve. And I had that moment in time.
I want one moment in time when I'm more than I thought I could be.
What was your relationship with Frank like? How close were you two? Did he open up to you? What was it like just being around Frank off stage? Well,
the one thing that Frank Sinatra never knew was how much in awe of him I was, because I never let him see that. You know, I mainly because I was a bartender. I used to pick up on personalities and stuff. Somehow I picked up on him. He had millions of fans. He didn't want another fan. He wanted a pal, a buddy. When I first started touring with him, he was the boss of the tour. Later, he became like a buddy, and then toward the end of my life, his life, he became like a father to me. But what happened was he started inviting me to his home down in Rancho Mirage in the desert, and I would stay down there. He had a huge compound, and I'd stay down there 5-6 times a year, just hanging out. And he stayed up till dawn every night, whether we're on the road or off. So he would ask me some nights, "Let's take a ride, Tommy." We'd ride around the desert till the sun came up. And that's when we became real close. You know, it's interesting. This was the great Frank Sinatra who had accomplished incredible things, overcame incredible odds, you know, not on top of the world and then knocked down to the bottom and then back up again. And all these incredible things he did as an actor, Academy Awards and everything.
I love you, though. Thank you very much. I'm absolutely thrilled. Thank you.
But when we were in the car alone, he became, as we rode around for a while, he became a kid from Hoboken, and I was a kid from Harvey, Illinois. And that's how we talked about the neighborhood and growing up in the neighborhood. Because something else I'll tell you, Don, I don't have a degree from academia. I got a doctorate from the streets. I grew up on the streets, and so did Frank Sinatra. He didn't have a degree from academia either. Right. When I came to Hollywood, and years ago, I gravitated not to, Hollywood people are a bunch of bullshit, celebrity, pampered brats, most of them. Pampered, spoiled brats who never worked a hard day in their life, most of them. Right. But, you know, so I gravitated more to neighborhood people. My buddies out here, when I first came out here, my buddies were guys from neighborhoods back east, or, you know, we used to have jokingly a group called the IMO, Italian Men Only. It was Joe Pesci and Frankie Valli and Joe Mantegna and Gary Sinise and Dennis Farina and I think of, you know, James Darren. And we would get together, go to a little Italian restaurant once a month, and we'd hang out in the back. They'd bring their wives or their girlfriends, and they were from streets of New Jersey and streets of South Philly and South Chicago. You know, we were all neighborhood guys. Frank was that kind of guy too. And like a neighborhood guy, Frank liked to hang out. You know, after, you know, like after we hang out, the show was fun, but hanging out was a lot more fun than the show. Yeah. And so I think Frank recognized that in me, that we were two neighborhood guys that like to hang out.
Now, Frank's obviously also known for his entourage. You were part of that entourage. What's it like entering a room with this, being a part of this entourage? You must feel like the biggest man alive at that moment.
No, you actually feel like the smallest man when you're with that big guy. You know, that's what, every now and then somebody say, you know, and Tom Dreesen's a star. I say, I'm not a star. No, I said, I'm not a star. I traveled with a star. I know what a star is. And by the way, 95% of these phonies in Hollywood aren't stars either.
Right. I agree.
Hey, here's the guy. You're talking about Frank Sinatra. 60 years he was a star. Most people are stars for 5 years, 7 years. You got a hit series, you got this, whatever. You know, 60 years. When he was 78 years old, he sold out in Japan, for God's sake. Wow. Everywhere we went, he sold out 20,000-seat arenas. You know, one time in Brazil, now, I wasn't with him, it was before my time with him, 175,000 people came to see him.
This is the greatest moment I have ever experienced in my life as a professional singer. Never before have I ever experienced anything like this before.
Wow. 175,000. It's the largest for a single act. I mean, rock stars may have done that, groups, you know, but not a single act. So when he was in a room, when you'd go, anywhere we'd go, like we'd go to the White House or wherever we'd go, wherever we're performing, when Frank Sinatra walked in the room, he would stay in one place. And there might be 1,000 people in that room, a cocktail reception, or 200 people, whatever. At one point, they would all gravitate to him. They would all gravitate to him. They would come to him because they all wanted to meet him. You know, it was interesting to watch how men of power would get in front of him. People who speak before the Congress of the United States, you know, they would get in front of him and start babbling. And say, Frank, can I call you Frank? Mr. Sinatra, listen, you know, when I was in college, you know, strangers in the night, and finally Frank would say, calm down, start all over again, you know, because he was larger than life, you know. And
this house is honored to have a man whose parents were born in Italy, who from humble beginnings went to the very top in entertainment, Frank Sinatra.
Now, with Frank Sinatra, you know, there's a lot of guys in the world who can sing. And there's a lot of guys, you know, have stage presence. But what do you think it was about Frank that made him Frank, that made him this incredible human being?
Well, I'll tell you, a great singer, Steve Lawrence, said to Frank when we were having dinner, and Steve Lawrence is a great singer. Steve said to Frank, you know, you ruined it for all the rest of us. You know that. He said, because once they heard you sing it, they knew how it's supposed to be sung.
The record show, I took the blow.
But you realize when you gave Frank Sinatra a song, to him it was a script. What did the writer feel the night the writer took pen in hand? You know, Frank would immerse himself in that lyric and become that lonely guy in the bar whose woman left him and he's never going to find love again. And you felt that. You felt that, every bit of that pain that he felt. And as he got older, now he's 75, 76, and he's singing that song. Now he's a 75-year-old man in that bar whose woman left him, and he knows he's never going to find love again. And you felt that pain. And the joy of the song, come fly with me, let's fly away. You know, you felt the joy. He sang from his guts. That's the difference between him and all the others. You know, all the others. Wow. Charlton Heston said, to watch Frank Sinatra sing a song is like watching a 4-minute movie. You know.
Just making one for my baby, one more for the road.
Wow, that's incredible. And it's true. He did pour all of his emotions in every song he sang, and like you said, depending on the period of his life, could really tell the story in a unique way. And that's kind of the gift that he had, and that's awesome. Now, one question I always had about Frank Sinatra, I don't know if it's ever been answered. I never really Googled it or anything. But in the Godfather movie, remember that one character a lot of people said was supposed to be Frank Sinatra, the one that...
Johnny Fontaine, El Martino.
Yeah, yes.
This heart I bring you, I have but one.
Is there any truth to that? Did Frank ever get upset about that, or did he ever talk about that with you, that Godfather scene?
You can act like a man! What's the matter with you? Is this how you turn out a Hollywood Pinocchio that cries like a woman?
Yeah, he hated that. And I'll tell you why he hated it. Because that was supposed to depict him in From Here to Eternity, that the mob got in there. It was such BS. Frank Sinatra was down on his luck in those days. He had been hot as he could be. Now he's on his ass. And he wanted that film so bad. He read that book and he knew that Maggio was a character like him. You know, he was an Italian from Hoboken, you know.
Right.
Maggio was that character that he knew he could play. He went in and he screen tested for that. And he did a great screen test. If you remember the scene in the bar where he was drunk in the bar, and that's when Ernest Borgnine, Fatso, he called him Fatso,
right.
Sergeant Ernest Borgnine, you know, Frank was drunk and he comes up to the bar and Montgomery Clift and Burt Lancaster and Frank's going and he's drunk. And he said to the director, Frank told me, he asked the director, all he had to do was do that one scene. That was a screen test to try to get that role. And there were other screen tests, you know. And meanwhile, Harry Cohn, the head of the studio, did not want Frank. He wanted Eli Wallach. But Eli Wallach was tied up on Broadway and couldn't get out of that contract. So he's looking at other people. So Frank comes in and he says to the director, do you have anything you want me to? He said, Frank, the guys are drunk. You take it from there. You've been around a lot of drunks in your life. That's how he is. Frank, when he got to the bar, he's just acting like a drunk. There were olives in the bar. He ad-libbed this. He took those olives and said, come on, 7, and he rolled those olives down the bar. Yeah. That was an ad-lib. That wasn't in the script, you know. And so they said, act like that. Now, when they went, cut, the whole crew applauded him. And Frank got choked up telling me that story one night. And he said, God bless those guys. God bless those guys. They all started applauding him because they knew that was something cool they just saw. Meantime, other people were screen testing. Ava Gardner was real close to Harry Cohn's wife, the head of the studio. And she kept lobbying for Frank. And Frank admitted this. He said, I know Ava had something to do with it. She kept telling Harry Cohn's wife, Frank would be right for that part. So the story is that Harry Cohn and his wife were having dinner one night and the phone rang. It was Ava. And she got off the phone, Harry Cohn's wife, and she said, that was Ava again. She wants you to, consider Frank for that role, that he could really do it. So Harry Cohn said, let me look at the screen again tonight. They went down in the basement of their big house and looked at the screen test. She said, yeah, he could do it. They gave Frank $8,000 for that. And it turned his life around.
Wow.
As you know, he made a comeback,
Yeah. Excellent. That's fantastic. And the whole book, I urge everybody, go get it on Amazon. It's a great book. You're on YouTube. You're on everything, right? You
can go to Amazon.com for the book, or you can go to my website, TomDreesen.com, which is DREESEN, Everybody puts an extra S and there was only one S. You can go to TomDreesen.com, Amazon, you can go to Barnes & Noble. The book is doing real good, knock on wood, because of guys like you who are giving me this chance to talk about it.
And it's a great book, great stories. What a career you had, sir. Thank you very much. Tom Dreesen, everybody.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. You have to subscribe to Don Sill's show, Put Up, Shut Up, and Stand Up on Govs Radio. It's the show with his buddy Benny. They're good buddies. They're on TV. I don't know what I'm saying.